This is a heartbreaking problem that most pet owners dread to face. Your senior dog still wags his tail when you come home, but he can no longer walk to greet you. He barely eats, yet he still looks at you with love. How do you know when it's time to say goodbye? Hi, I'm Dr. Kathryn Dench. I've been working as a vet for almost 20 years, and in this episode we'll talk about the hardest decision pet parents must make, and this is when to let go. Firstly, why is this decision so hard? For owners who've already lost a best friend, you may notice that there's an ongoing emotional conflict when thinking about euthanizing. We have fears and doubts in the process that make us think twice about whether we're doing the right thing. What if I make the decision too soon? What if they have a few good days left? Am I giving up on them? But here's the thing, sometimes the longer we wait, the more these questions, though natural, can start to cause unnecessary suffering, both for us and for them. While every owner might prefer their pet to die peacefully in their sleep, unfortunately natural deaths are rarely as peaceful and pain-free as we might imagine it to be. It's tough, and yet there's also the worry about what might happen if we wait too long. So let me talk you through the things to consider while making this decision. First, let's look at the process of euthanasia itself, and what actually happens when you make that difficult decision. I know it can be really overwhelming, but understanding the steps ahead of time can help ease some of that anxiety. The first thing to know is that the euthanasia solution is a very concentrated anesthetic. When it gets into the bloodstream, your pet goes to sleep like they would for an anesthetic. But because of the high concentration, it stops the heart and stops the brain, and that's how it does its job. But from your pet's perspective, it's the same feeling of falling asleep that they get when we give them other anesthetic injections for routine ops. And it works quickly. Within moments, your pet will pass away in a calm and pain-free way. It's also important to know that there are some reflexes that can happen at the time of death, and they might seem unsettling if you're not expecting them, but your pet isn't aware of any of it. So as the electricity in their nerves dissipates, their muscles can twitch or spasm, which may make it look like they're gasping, or they may release their bladder or bowels. But it's important to know that these are just natural reflexes. They're not signs of pain or distress. It can also come as a shock that pets' eyes don't close when they pass away, but knowing this ahead of time can make the moment a little easier to face. The actual process of administering the injection can vary depending on the clinic and also on your pet. The vets might place a catheter in your pet's vein to give the injection through, or they might give the injection directly from the needle. If your pet is anxious, your vet might give them a sedative before the procedure to help them feel more relaxed. However, it's not always necessary for every case to have a sedative, and it can make the veins harder to find, which might make extra steps before the final injection. So every vet approaches this differently, and if you have concerns, don't be afraid to ask your vet about their process and what to expect. Now, you may have some options about where this happens. Some owners choose in-home euthanasia, where the vet team comes to your house to perform the procedure. This can be a more peaceful and private setting for both you and your pet, especially if they tend to get stressed in the clinic. On the other hand, some owners prefer the clinic environment because it feels more structured, or they may feel more comfortable in that setting. Many pet owners tell me, I don't think I can handle being in the room, and I understand that because it's heartbreaking. But I've also seen others regret not being there. See, here's the thing, being there in your dog's final moments is a personal choice, and there's no right or wrong decision. If you want to stay, your presence can be comforting, but if you feel that you can't, that's okay too. Some pets pick up on their owner's emotions, and if you're feeling overwhelmed, it may be more peaceful for them to be with the calm and caring vet team. If you're not sure, just talk to your vet about what to expect so that you can make the choice that feels right for you. And if you're not there, know that your pet will still be in loving hands with a nurse and a vet comforting them every step of the way. After your dog passes, you'll also have a few options for what comes next. You might choose cremation, where you may have the option to keep their ashes or let the facility handle them. Or some owners prefer burial either at home or in a pet cemetery. One way to find peace is through meaningful memorials, so a paw print, a framed photo, planting a tree in their honour, small gestures that keep their memory alive. And if you're struggling with grief, please don't go through it alone. There are support groups, pet loss hotlines, and even grief counsellors who specialise in this kind of loss. Talking can help. So when it comes to deciding when's the right time to let go, we need to talk about something important, which is quality of life. This is at the heart of the decision-making process, but it's not always an easy thing to define. As pet owners, we're often left wondering, is my pet still enjoying life? Are they in pain? Are they still the same happy companion that they used to be? So here's the challenge. Quality of life isn't something you can measure with a single number or at a quick glance. You have to observe the little things, the moments, the behaviours, the changes, and it's never black and white. As a vet, I often assess quality of life through a combination of factors. It's not just looking at one thing in isolation. For example, is your pet eating and drinking enough? Can they move around easily? It's important to start thinking about these areas of your pet's life because each of these factors gives you insight into how they're doing. So when is the right time to let them go? It's the question no pet owner wants to face, but if you're asking yourself, is it time? The answer is, it's usually close. If you're unsure, talk to your family to see how everyone feels. More importantly, talk to your vet because they can walk you through the process, discuss options you may not be aware of, and help you feel more confident in your decision. The truth is, there's rarely a perfect moment. We always want more time, one more good day, one more tail wag. But in my experience, the right time is often sooner than we think. Our love for them makes us hesitate, but waiting too long can mean more suffering. One of the tools that we use to help assess quality of life is called the HHHHHMM scale. So this scale looks at 7 key aspects of your pet's life, which includes hurt, hunger, hydration, hygiene, happiness, mobility, and more good days than bad. So let's take a look at what we mean by each of those. So hurt. This is looking at how much pain they're in. Is this temporary and likely to get better, like with a pulled nail? Or is it permanent and worsening? Hunger. Are they eating enough? Or are they struggling with their appetite? Food is a source of joy for most of our pets throughout their lives, and losing interest in eating can have a big impact on how they enjoy life. Hydration. Are they drinking enough water? We know from human research that even mild dehydration leaves you feeling headachy and irritable, so pets who can no longer pluck up the energy to go to the water bowl are probably feeling similar. Hygiene. Are they able to care for themselves? Pets who are in pain or have neurological problems are sometimes unable to toilet in the right place or do their normal cleaning of all parts of their body. Happiness. Are they still able to enjoy life? Now this one to me is the most personal. You've been by your pet's side for years and you know what makes life worth living for them. Perhaps it's barking through the window at the neighbour's cat, or chasing a squirrel in the park, or climbing up onto the sofa with you for cuddles in the evening. Is your pet still able to do those little things that bring them happiness? Mobility. How easily can they move around? If movement is painful or your pet doesn't have the energy to move around as they used to, it limits how they can interact with their environment and look after their own needs. And more good days than bad. So thinking through all these points that we've discussed, you'll be able to classify some days as fairly good and some days as worse. But are there good days outweighing the bad? Take a step back and really assess how your pet is doing on each of these aspects. If the balance is tipping, then it may be time to let them go peacefully. And I want to say this, choosing euthanasia isn't giving up on them. It's giving them the gift of dignity, comfort, and peace. Look at this decision as an act of love, not as betrayal. You've been their protector all their life, and this is the last and kindest thing that you can do for them. Now let's go back to that first moment we imagined together. Your senior dog, still full of love, but struggling to move, to eat. It's the hardest decision you'll ever make, but it's also the kindest. When their body fails them, your love doesn't, and it carries them through even to the very end. I hope this episode has given you some clarity, some guidance, and maybe even a little peace as you face this last emotional decision. It's never easy, but you don't have to go through it alone. Talk to your vet, lean on those who understand, and most of all, trust yourself. You know your dog better than anyone. Your love has guided them through their happiest days, and it will guide them now. If you've been through this before, I'd love to hear your story. Maybe in a future episode we can share the experiences of others who've walked this path, because your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. And I just want to say this, your dog has felt your love every single day, and that love doesn't stop just because they're gone. It stays with you in the memories, the habits, and even the quiet moments. The hardest thing about loving them is saying goodbye, but I promise you gave them a beautiful life, and that's what matters most. That's all for today, and I'll see you in the next one.